Thank you, Dr. Neha Kakkar and the whole Hindi team. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning. This is the 2178th day of continuous webinar conducted by International Forum for Promoting Homeopathy. Today, our guest is Dr. Hedwig Vincharwala. Let us begin the session with 1 minute silent prayer. Thank you all. The International Forum for Promoting Homeopathy comprises of homeopathic lovers, students, and doctors, and we have 3 sessions every day. The first session of the day is already over in Hindi from 7:30 to 8:30. From 8:30 to 9:30, we have the international session in English, and from 9:30 to 10:30, we have a local language session in Malayalam. We are uploading the videos of the same on the very next day itself so that those who missed the session can watch it again. You can subscribe the same without paying any money. You can share it with anyone who loves homeopathy. IFBH connects people around the world, doctors around the world, and students around the world. And International Forum for Promoting Homeopathy has already uploaded more than 4,000 videos at YouTube. Those who missed the session and those who want to see the previous videos, you may visit IFBH Homeopathy at YouTube. So today we have a guest in Dr. Hedwig Gunspala, and she is an MD scholar, Department of Homeopathy Case Taking and Repertory, Ahmedabad Homeopathic Medical College, Park University, and is a young researcher and awardee published researcher with a special interest in women's health, infertility, and PCOS. She has awarded the STSH Research Scholarship by CCRH, Ministry of Ayush, Government of India, and received awards for research paper presentation and have represented her research at national and international platforms, including the International Ayush Exhibition and Conference Dubai World Trade Center UAE. She is the founder and editor of the Health Hub, a weekly evidence-based health and wellness newsletter focused on creating practical, scientifically informed health awareness. And she is the proud daughter of uh, a homeopathic two homeopaths. Her father as well as her mother is a homeopath. So we can, all of them can proud about her because that much of contribution she can deliver to us, and she has so many experience in this field and she has seen the successful stories from the parents of a clinic also. So the doctor will be talking a very important subject today, and that is beyond the diagnosis. That means something beyond the diagnosis. What can it be? Understanding the patient behind infertility. So we proudly welcome Dr. Halvi Kunchala. Welcome, doctor.
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yeah, everything fine. You can go ahead.
Yes, okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the introduction. Good evening, everyone. I hope I am clearly audible.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, sir, I would like to share my screen.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Okay. So, I'm Dr. Hitvi Gunchla, as sir have said. Thank you so much for the introduction again. So, my today's topic is beyond the diagnosis, understanding the patient behind the infertility. Okay. So, I hope I'm also visible, sir.
You are visible.
Hello.
Yes, there is no doubt you are. You
Okay,
can talk.
because I cannot see myself in this.
You may, because the
Okay.
person may not
Yeah.
be able to see
So
both.
let's first yeah. So let's first understand what is actually infertility. So as we know, infertility is inability to conceive after 12 months or more of regular unprotected sexual intercourse. And the burden of it, especially in India, it's 15 to 20 million couple annually. That is very large. And globally, the scale even goes higher. And I would like to quote that it is more common in urban area compared to the rural area. And female suffers from it approximately 30 to 50%, from which due to ovarian reserve and due to endometriotic cyst, it is very common. And there are two types of infertility, basically primary and secondary, as we know. So primary is that when the couple have no child, even no first child. Okay. And the secondary is when there is no when there is a previous pregnancy, even if there is an abortion, it is considered it is considered to be in a secondary infertility category. So there are basically multiple factors. Okay. So in case of female factor, ovulation disorder, ovarian factor, tubal factor, uterine factors, endometriosis, which is one of the really major cause of infertility in female, PCOS or PMOS, as we say. In male, number of sperms, that is sperm count, sperm motility, sperm morphology, or hormonal factor, which is also again very underdiagnosed in male, and also reproductive tract issues in male. And if not, it could be both combined factor of male and female. And sometimes there are unexpected factors which are not even pathologically diagnosed, which I will be talking in this. So I would like to more highlight on the female side first. So the first one, ovulatory factors. It could be due to PCOS or PMOS, anovulation, endocrine disruption, hyperprolactemia, which is underdiagnosed but very common in a female coming for the infertility. In ovarian factors, it could be due to diminished ovarian reserve due to age-related decline of the ovarian reserve, premature ovarian insufficiency. In cases also, I will show you. This is also one of the very common cause these days: premature ovarian insufficiency, tubal factors, blockage, PID, adhesions, or any previous surgeries which have caused any abnormalities, uterine factors, fibroid, polyp, adenomyosis, anything, and endometriosis, as I said, one of the major cause in that. Two, ovarian cyst or endometrioma, or commonly we call it as chocolate cyst, one of the again very common cause. Pelvic adhesions and chronic pelvic inflammation, which is also again underdiagnosed. So we need to rule out that. Now, male factors, it could be due to the sperm production, the quantity of the sperm, means oligospermia, azoospermia, testicular dysfunction, varicocele, genetic factors, or any kind of infection due to the quality, means asthenospermia, teratozoospermia, means the poor sperm motility and abnormal sperm morphology, DNA fragmentation, defective sperm functions. Again, hormonal factors. In male, it is underdiagnosed. In young male, it may be diagnosed the hypogonadism or hyperprolactinemia. Then sperm transportation, that is on delivery issues like obstruction and vas deferens, erectile dysfunction, problems in ejaculation, or some other factors like lifestyle disorders, which is very common these days, any systematic illness or anything. I would like to more highlight today towards the female side of the infertility. So before I show you the cases, I would like to just do a quick recap for the hormones. Okay. So the major hormones, these are all, see, just listen carefully. These all are the hormones which are hormone profile, which are very important in cases of female infertility. So AMH will show the reservoir, which indicate how many follicles are there. And as we all know, FSH shows the growth of the follicles. Depending on the what day of the cycle it is, it varies. Okay. Then LH shows shows the quality of the quality of the eggs. Estrogen, as we know that uterine lining, it will develop the uterine lining. Progesterone will help if there is any fertilization of the egg. It will do the implantation, and the level of progesterone should be maintained. Now, very important in female, testosterone is at a very low, but it is very important. If it increases, it will cause PCOS. So measuring the level, measuring and means testing the level of testosterone is also important. And also torch profile is very important depending on the symptoms what we see in the cases, that is toxoplasma, rubella, CMV, HSV. And the most important thing in case of female, the PNA excess is very important. Her anything suffering from stress, anxiety, overthinking, or anything, it will directly disrupt her hormonal profile. Her hypothalamus will have interruptions in releasing GnRH, hence interrupting in every hormone and having difficulty. So I would like to start with the cases. So the first case, what happens when I'm not enough becomes her inner belief. Okay, so this is the theme of the case. So this is a 29-year-old female who came with the complaint of primary infertility, means previously she had no kids. Okay, and she was trying since last 6 years. She have went through IVF and IUI also twice, but have failed. Her menses cycle was a bit irregular. Physical general, as it is, she was well built, nourished, fair looking. So her height weight ratio was also good. Some of the peculiar physical generals where she had desire for sweets and peanuts, very thirstless, stool mucousy, and diarrhea, especially before menses, and urine occasionally burning, but during menses she had much burning in urine. Then mouth was also, tongue was pale and dry, because obviously she was drinking less water, so that is obvious she will have. Okay, so very important, menstrual history. So as I said, she had irregular cycle, 30 to 40 days, but sometimes it used to also extend more. So again, asking for the menstrual complaints in extreme detail is very important in every case. So before menses, she had diarrhea and back pain with increased anger. Now, this was very marked. I will show you the mental symptoms with it. During menses, she had only 3 days of menses and less flow, clothes, and with coryza. Character of bleeding was dark, bloated, very less bleeding. After menses, much dryness in vagina and leukorrhea both during and after menses. She had thick egg white leg, both during and after.
Doctor,
So some of the particulars. Hello.
there is a sound come, whether your phone is on or not. Can you, some abnormal sound is coming
My
from,
phone.
oh, it is on or not? Now it is off.
Okay. 1 second, sir. Okay. Is it off? No, there was
And now it
just
is
one
quite bad.
second.
Sound is vibrating like it's clear something. There's some problem. And now it is okay. If it is better to sit closer and
Yeah,
speak.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes. Now it is better.
yeah. Okay. So, I would like to continue now. Physical particulars, where she was saying this particular symptom, that sticky sputum behind the throat in the slightest exposure of the cold. It could be due to weather change. It could be when she is going in a vehicle and she faced some cold, she will have it. Dry nose, dry coryza before menses. Past history was of renal calculi, jaundice, and dengue in childhood. No specific family history. So her mental symptoms are very peculiar. So anger before menses, she was having like a desire to shout too much, and she even used to shout. Even her husband told, and she had actual desire to bite, and she used to. Okay, so this was a very peculiar symptom, that desire to shout and bite. And after that, she used to feel very anxious and suffocated near the neck, because of which she used to feel very embarrassed, because whatever she did, she used to feel embarrassed. And all these things she used to do with her husband only. She was very shy in front of her in-laws. And she had this fear because of her infertility. She was always in constant fear that, okay, I am the one to be blamed, I am the one who is being judged by the in-laws, which was in real, which was not the case. Her in-laws were good. So still she was only overthinking like it. After which she started being despondent, that okay, very carefree and all, but and somewhere in the inner side she was always very despondent and emotionally anxious and insecure about it. And no sexual desire, painful coitus. She was actually architect, so she was completely focused in her work, and very introvert. So I told her for the investigations, and as I showed you the hormones, we did that hormone profile. Okay. So these are her investigations. So her hemoglobin was fine. AMH, which shows the reservoir of the eggs, 0.545. It should be more than 4. 4 to 6 is very optimum at this age. Her age is 29. So between 4 to 6 is very good, but it is very low, very 0.545. But again, I will show you when to rely on this thing. AMH. It is again very confusing. Her torch panel was positive. It was IgG, so it did show the previous
No,
infections.
doctor, your slide is not weird. Now it is mental general.
Okay. Is it visible?
Now it is okay.
Okay, so yeah, the AMH 0.545, as I said, now you can see, right? The CBC report and all, right? The next one, this is AMH and torch panel report. I hope my screen is visible, so please confirm.
Yes, yes, it is visible.
Okay. Then this is prolactin and FSH and LH report. FSH and LH was normal as per it was her third day of the cycle, so it was normal. But prolactin was very high, 33, which is actually high. Then now this is very important. You can see the USG report. I hope USG report is visible.
Yes, visible. Okay.
Hello.
Yes,
Okay.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. So as I said, as per her AMH level, which was 0.545, it means her AMH level was like a menopausal woman. But in USG, follicles are seen, which means the follicles are very tiny and underdeveloped. AMH is released from the follicles. So it is better just not to solely rely on AMH. AMH is important to do, but not solely rely on. Her endometrium thickening was normal as per the day concerned. So her primary diagnosis is the diminished ovarian reserve with torch positive. Okay, then this was the analysis, but let me go to the totality. So I took like a Kant's method. So mental general was the first. Her desire for shout and bite, and then used to feel anxious and suffocated feeling. Then I also took a despondent feeling. Then it is also very important to consider the physical symptoms, because that is for what she have came to me. Okay, so irregular menses or character of it before and after the symptoms I considered. Vaginal dryness and leukorrhea is also important to consider in this case. Then again, the frequent bloating and shifting gas and heaviness after every meal she was feeling. So I also took, and lectin, conium, and sepia I have marked it. Lectin was the first. I
Now the
already
screen,
doubted it was lectin, but still
now the screen, it is totality of symptoms. Oh, okay, fine.
yeah. So this is the repertorial sheet. Okay. So lectin, conium, and I have marked sepia also in this. Okay. So as we know, repertory is just a tool, but we need to rely on materia medica at the end of the day. So this is the difference between lectin and conium for this particular case. I hope it is visible. And it is from Boric and Clark and Murphy Materia Medica. Okay, so all her mental sphere, her PMS, emotional pattern, vaginal dryness, sexual sphere, gynec sphere, and the remedy relationship I have shown you. So it majority shows lectin. Okay. Also, at the pathological side, if we see, then as conium is a cognate remedy to the lectinium. So we can give conium as a cognate so that her ovarian reserve can flourish more. So that is what I did in my first prescription. So I prescribed her lectinium 1 dose, and I gave her after to take it after 2 days, Conam 200 every week, and this was the prescription for 15 days. Then Saclec BD. So next, when she came to me, it was after 15 days. So she was having vaginal leukorrhea and vaginal dryness. Okay, and so I also it was her mid cycle. So I advised her for the follicular study so that I can get to know when her rupturation occurs. Okay, so I again as lectinium have a long period of time. The durability is long, so I didn't repeated its dose. I just repeated the conium 200 dose every week for 15 days and told her to do a follicular study. So this was her follicular study report. As you can see, on 12th day she went, and the follicle size is very small. Even her endometrium thickening is thin as compared to 12th day concern. Then she went on 15th day. The weird happened that follicle size was reduced. The larger follicle was on right side, but it got reduced. Then on 17th day, again it got larger, but it is very small as compared to what it should be. So yeah, this was the last, and then she came back to me again, and then her menses also came. So she had this before menses. She had perspiration on her palm soles. She was feeling heat and partly clotted blood she was having. Okay, so it was already a month. Then I prescribed Lectinam 1M again, and I started Conium 0/2. LM potency is very good all the time. LM potency is very good to prescribe if you want a long term, very good result. Then. So again, after 15 days, she came. Then she was having coryza, leukorrhea, vaginal dryness. So I just continued her with Conium. And again, the Conium was prescribed. So in short, her vaginal dryness, which was one of the main concern, was reduced. Anxious and suffocated feeling was reduced. Before menses, she was having the desire to get too much angry, bite. That was also not there. Okay. Then I again advised her for a follicular study after 2 months. So again, this was very shocking. On right side, no follicle. So left side there. So let me show you whole. Yeah. So on left side, a very good follicle was developing with a considerably good endometrium thickening. Okay. So I increased the potency of the LM potency of Conium. So I gave her 0/4. Then after like a month, this was her hormonal report. Okay, so this prolactin which got reduced came to normal. From 33 it came to 14, which is completely normal. Her FSH and LH also, it's normal as per the day concerned. Okay, then again I repeated. After a month, lecanemab dose, Conam was continued. But after a week only, she came to me with too much of bloating and too much of nausea and vomiting. So I doubted her menses was also too much delayed. So I doubted it could be positive. And her beta-HCG was positive. Her pregnancy was positive. So this was the first case. Okay, so it was about she was feeling that I was not enough. That I want to highlight. Okay, she had the constant feeling on the mental sphere, but at the same time, pathologically also we need to have some evidence, as we say, evidence-based medicine. So I would like to highlight some of the things that in female, it biological, yes, of course it is there, but psychological, social, and some relationship issues, these are very common. So asking towards that side, like a fear of childbirth, fear of what the partner will think, or what the any people, any social anxiety or relationship issue, any form of it, is very important to ask towards that side. We need to deep dive into it, so that, and sometimes patient will not say in the first consultation also. We need to go for second or third, then patient will open up. So the case 2 is about when indifference becomes a way of being. Okay, so this is a case where she was very indifferent, very classic. I would not say the medicine right now. So let me just start. She is a 27-year-old female, and this is a case of secondary infertility. She is already having a girl child of 6 years, and she came for the secondary infertility. Since 6 years, she is trying. Okay, because she want to have another baby. It was due to the family issue that they want two child. Okay, so that was the situation. They went to IUI again. Husband semen analysis was normal, but again IUI they did twice. They didn't wanted to go IVF, so they directly came to me. So basically, she was very lean, thin body, very lean, and this is one of the peculiar symptoms. Whenever she wake up in the morning, used to feel very lethargic, no desire to do anything, very lethargic. Morning feels tired, desire for no work, and she had desire to eat sour and spicy food, and she used to feel bloated after food with acidity and heaviness. Stool, she used to remain constipated. Now, in her, urinary symptom is very important. Burning micturition. Since last 7 years, she was having this. Every other day, she used to have, and itching over the vulva. And her menstrual history. So she was having before menses breast soreness with great weakness, burning micturition, and pain in lower abdomen. Her menses used to last for 2 to 3 days only, but with too much of dysmenorrhea, too much of pain in lower abdomen, back, and thigh, dark clotted blood. And after menses, she again used to get constipated, leukorrhea, acrid, watery, profuse, occasionally like egg white, and burning and hot. So some of the particulars: burning and pruritus vulva before menses, bloating and heartburn after meal, and feet burning, especially at night. Almost every other day she used to have that. In her past history, as I said, this burning micturition since 7 years, and she was anemic also. So and the mental symptoms in her case is very important. So the patient came. Her gestures itself were showing too much apathy for her husband. This was clear. I don't have the video, otherwise I would have shown you. Her gestures were only like that. Okay, I don't want to talk with him. Very indolent patient also. No sexual desire, and coitus was painful. Now, this symptom before menses, anger, especially in evening, and then in the morning she was very cheerful. Means, and the evening she gets angry. Then in the morning everything is fine, nothing happened. And very stubborn person. And she used to love to go to her parents' house. At in-law, she didn't used to like only. She always used to stay at her home only. She never used to go to her in-laws' house. But actually, she should be there. Then she used to have fear of being alone, and the during sleep, she had this particular fear that someone is watching at night. Someone is watching her at night from outside. She used to have this fear. So I made her do the investigations. Hemoglobin low, okay, AMH 1.7, prolactin high, and very alarming, torch panel HSV IgM positive. So that is active virus positive. So these are her reports: FSH, LH, AMH low, 27-year-old, and 1.7 is very low. Torch panel HSV positive. Urine analysis, of course, she will have epithelial cells and all. B12 was normal. I thought it could be the case of pernicious anemia, but B12 was normal. Now, this is very important. She was having chocolate cyst, which I said in earlier also, one of the very common cause. Her ovary size was larger compared to what it should be, so doubtful of the chocolate cyst. And right side there were so many tiny multiple follicles were there. So she is the case of endometrial cyst with herpes infection. Analysis and evaluation, and this is the totality. So in this, I find that it is very important because active virus is there. So I took that symptom first with her mental general also, and her menstrual cycle in consideration, her physical general burning micturition, that also I took in importance. Then aversion to coitus, no sexual desire, apathy to other husband, that also I took in consider. Then stool was constipated, hemorrhoids, burning, swollen, and painful. So that is also one of the important symptom of her. And during sleep, she was being watched. That symptom also is very important in her case. So this is the repertorial sheet. Netramur and sepia came up. Now materia medica will guide. So sepia have most of her symptoms covered: the burning one, the indolent one. Netramur is grief and gloomy and frightened. Okay, Netramur will have awkwardness and hesitation, but the anger with truffles and gets irritated easily, what she was having that. Okay, sepia have this endometrium cyst in Murphy it is written. While Netramur is good for prolapse of the uterus, burning micturition, leukorrhea acrid, apathy towards her husband, morning sickness, everything is covered. Fear of being alone. So sepia is covered very well. So yeah, that was the thing. This is the classic sepia lady. So I prescribed her sepia 200 single dose every week. So the follow-up is very long. This case went on for almost 1.5 years. So I have divided the follow-ups in 4 phases. So initially, she was having, after the first round, she came to me. So she was having abdominal pain, gas, bloating, and everything. So I just gave her Sapia 200, one dose for 15 days. Okay. Then again, she came. She was having bleeding for 2 days. She got her menses, and the flow was more during the sleep. And still, she was having vertigo and rising leg pain. Okay. So I thought, okay, let me just continue with the medicine. It is showing somewhat improvement. That's why. So again, she came, and physical generals were mostly covered. Her burning micturition complaint was covered a lot. So as Organon says, just continue the remedy. So I with the same potency. So I just prescribed with same potency. Then I asked her to do her HSV report. Okay, so it was after almost 2.5 months we did her. So HSV report came negative, means now she is not suffering from the herpes virus. So this was her HSV negative report, but her hemoglobin, I did check her for her hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is yet low. So in the next, what I did, I increased the potency, Sapia 1M. Okay. And now I'm giving her for every month. And I prescribed her Ferrum Metallicum for her hemoglobin issue, which is very important. So Sapia was covering her mental symptoms very well and also the physical symptoms. But hemoglobin is very needed. Okay, so I prescribed her Ferrum Metallicum 1 dose every week for 1 month. So then her menses came. So that time menses last for 5 days. It was very short, 2 to 3 days. From that, it went to 5 days. Okay. Then again, next time she came, she was having yellowish leukorrhea, vaginal itching, craving for ice cream. Her sexual desire got increased. Her nature, like apathy, she was behaving too much apathetic with her husband. That also changed. So you can see Sapia did change her mental symptoms very well. So again, same prescription I prescribed for a month. Then I told her next time she came, she was having acidity and bloating symptoms. So I also asked her, let's do USG. So what's the situation of the endometrial cyst? We'll get to know. So this is the USG. So before, you can see I have also marked before and after. So the cyst got increased. This was, I think, on her 20th day. It's written in the USG. So almost the mid cycle of her. And so cyst did got increased, but on the right side, the volume, the follicles were not visible. Now the follicle is also visible. So further, again same prescription. So her she got very mentally calm. Her leukorrhea symptom also vanished. Okay, burning, acrid leukorrhea, very itchy, was gone. But she was having mood swings. She did used to get somewhat angry and all. So again, same thing went on. She was then after feeling happy and energetic also. Then again, after 2 months, we did report again. Okay, so hemoglobin got increased. Then her torch panel report was really good. Everything was almost normal. Okay. Then AMH also increased from 1.7 to 3.8. It got increased. Prolactin came down to normal. And this was her urine analysis. She was thirstless, so I do used to tell her to drink water, but she didn't used to drink. So this is the comparison before and after. AMH got increased, prolactin came down to normal. Her urine analysis is still yet for me in doubt, and also HB got increased. So then after that, also we did USG also. So on the right side, now we can see clear volume and clear follicles. Left side, the cyst got reduced too. So in final, she was almost status quo. So still, her physical generals and all was increasing. So I did Ferrum Metallicum. I stopped. I just went on with Sapia 1 now. I stick to that. And for next almost for 2 months, I gave her the same prescription, 2 or 3 months. Then we did a USG again, and finally her left side endometrium cyst was reduced, because every time when she used to come left side, she was having too much pain, because obviously with the cycle it will increase and decrease, the ovary size will increase and decrease. So now it came down to normal. So again, then I kept her on. I thought, okay, let me just keep her on Cyclic. So Cyclic was the thing. Then in 1 month she came and she was having too much nausea and vomiting, and so I prescribed her colchicum and I told her go for USG. So yeah, also I told her for beta HCG. She was pregnancy positive, high positive. This is her USG report, which is pregnancy positive, and the baby boy was delivered at full term. Yeah, a very healthy baby boy was delivered. It was delivered in December itself last year. So now the case 3. So this is about when the fear of yesterday continues to shape her life. Okay, this is a very short case and very interesting case. Okay, so it is a recent case only, very recent case. So it is is a case of 23-year-old lady. She is a case of primary infertility and suffering since 5 years. Okay, 7 years of marriage. She got married earlier, so she also went. She had past history of endometriosis and chocolate cyst in her childhood. It was diagnosed in her childhood only, and she also went for IVF and IUI, but again failed attempt. Even because of her endometriosis, doctor said that you need to take a donor womb, but it failed. So then she came to me. So again, a very lean thin body, very thin she was. Okay, she had feels weak and unrefreshed on waking, fatigue more marked in the morning, desire for spicy food, too much spicy. Again, thirstless. I don't know why female are always thirstless. This is very common case. Stool, mucousy, and diarrhea before menses, very important symptom in her. Mouth, pale tongue, and dryness. Thirst, she was thermally ambithermal, and urine was burning, micturition, lower abdomen pain, and because of her endometriosis before menses, she used to have too much pain. So her cycle was a bit earlier, 20 to 25 days, very short cycle. Okay, severe pain in lower abdomen, especially on the left side, and nausea and vomiting before menses, and itching in vagina. This was very marked because of her endometriosis. The endometriosis was diagnosed in her childhood, so she didn't had the US reports of that time. But I did saw her previous reports where there was a written US report of the gynec. It mentioned it. I just confirmed it. So she used to feel anxious and angry with desire to be alone, sometimes cry when alone. During menses, pain in back and legs, coryza with watery eyes, much heaviness in chest. During menses, first day maroon spot only, then you will have too much of bright red clotted flow. Okay, after menses, much dryness and itching in the vagina, leukorrhea both during and after menses, thick egg white like. Then this is the reason, the last point which I have highlighted. It was the first menses which she got was at the age of 13. So during that time, she used to do all farming work actually. So lifting heavy weights and everything, and so she, of course, that is one of the reason that the female will get too much pressure in her pelvic area. And because her father was used to beat her mother, that thing she used to see every day, and because of which she had this childhood trauma in her, and she didn't even wanted to marry. So suddenly, at the age of 16, what happened, again this thing repeated, and one day she almost collapsed, and then she was, at the age of 16, she was diagnosed with because of dysmenorrhea, she was diagnosed with endometriosis. So the physical particulars were post intercourse vaginal dryness and itching, throat sticky, sputum occasionally was there due to exposure of cold and air. Then hiccups in the empty stomach. Okay, past history, as I said. Mental symptoms is very important. She had this childhood trauma, so she got married at the age of 18. Even she didn't want to, but her dad made her marry. So she was having this anxiety. She was not very open with the family, not open with the husband also. So she was always used to get the negative thinking and everything. After she did existed, the in-laws were really good, so she did existed, but then they tried to conceive and was unable to. So because of which she was blaming herself only, that it is me who is to be blamed. Okay, so she even didn't used to like if anyone helps her or anyone tells her, give her advice or anything. She used to hate it. Vexation and gangrene, this very too important word, was seen in her. Then fear and apprehension for after frightening thoughts. She always used to get very frightened suddenly. If something will happen, even she's at the dining table and napkin is there, she will get too much frightened. Then mentally very overthinking and very overactive, and she always used to get this particular dream that she and her husband are going in the vehicle and suddenly nothing happened, suddenly an accident happened and feel helpless. She just used to notice it. So these are her reports. The hemoglobin is normal 11.9. Urine analysis, epithelial cells were seen. AMH is 2.7, which is fine. Okay, at the age of 23, it's actually low, but still we can work on it. FSH and LH was low, and prolactin was also low. It should be what the level should be. It was low rather. Again, the TORCH report was positive, and I also went her for the thyroid testing. So only testing the thyroid profile is not sufficient. Hashimoto thyroiditis is very common, so we should also do NTTP also. This is her USG report. It just showed fewer follicles on both the sides, but it was good enough. So for the fertility, and on the right side it was smaller, left side it was larger. Her HbA1c and everything was normal. So this is the totality. So I took anxiety symptom, too much negative thoughts, vexation, chagrin, and the physical symptoms also, which is we need to consider it. Very important. That severe lower abdomen pain, heaviness of chest before menses, and especially left side, she was having pain because her left side was affected, left ovary was affected. Then menses, the character of menses, I took vaginal dryness and itching, especially after the intercourse, and egg white like leukorrhea. I took that in the consideration. So for me, the remedy was actually clear, but still, for me to confirm it, I still did the repetirization, and Conayam was the remedy in this. So I told you it is very short case. I will show you why. I gave her Conayam 1M, 2 doses every week. Then she came to me. Her dream of the she was getting accident every day. She was getting this dream was gone. Hiccups, empty stomach was reduced, but she was having this earache, very getting like a death-like earache. Okay, it is the symptom of Conam. It is written in Murphy Materia Medica. So I continued the remedy again. Conam 1. Okay, so she got her menses before only. So she came to me in this year, January 14, and on 16 she got. Okay. Then so after 15 days she came. So second time I gave her same prescription, dark maroon kind of bleeding, anxious, heavy feeling of the chest. I continued the remedy, but it was her mid cycle. That's why I prescribed folliculinum 30. BD. It is very good for increasing the number of follicles and developing a good follicle. It is a very good remedy. So I gave her folliculinum 30. And next time, before she comes in a week, she was pregnancy positive. So yeah, she is a continuing ongoing case. This is her reports at the 12 weeks. Currently, she is having 8 months of pregnancy, and she's yet coming to me for her hemoglobin issue. So this is an ongoing case. She is expecting in October. So in this, I would like to highlight in all this case what we saw, that accurate diagnosis is of course important. Evidence base is very needed. Okay, but at the same time, we need to see the person behind that. Diagnosis will give you the label, will help you for the prognosis. Okay, what will be her symptoms, will get it. Okay, but knowing taking a very detailed case, especially in infertility cases, detailed menstrual symptoms and her personal life space, especially her past history from childhood and everything, that of course we all do it, but again in very tiniest detail, if we take it is very important. And connecting the dots, her infertility issue, in all three cases, it was infertility only, but different fears, emotional relationship expectations, symptoms were all different. Okay. And also remedy relationship also we need to see, as in lectin and sepia, lectin and quinine case, quinine was cognate, so that is also very important, we need to see. So understanding what the patient has, and it is, and who we are treating, both are different, and understanding both things is very important in any infertility cases. Okay. So disease provides the clinical framework. Patient's individual experience provide the context in which the disease is lived. The person who is living in the disease, that we will get. And integrating objective findings with detailed individualized case assessment allows a more comprehensive understanding of the patient. Okay, so at the dynamic sphere, we do need to check it. And also, still, we do need to do a patient centric care, at the same time keeping in mind scientific diagnosis and evidence base is very important. So in conclusion, I'd like to highlight the similar thing that mind and body are interconnected. Dynamic assessment is needed. Individualization, as we see, matters. Every infertility case is different. I showed you the three cases. Each everyone was of infertility, but with the totally different symptoms. Okay, therapeutic relationship means a relationship of the remedy is important, and holistic patient-centric care is very important. So thank you, everyone. I would like to end it with the greatest medicine is to teach the patient how not to need it. It's by Hippocrates. So this is all about me. Do subscribe to my newsletter, The Health Hub. Yeah. Hello.
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 Am I audible, Hetvi?
Yeah.
Really, I appreciate your presentation with
Yes.
evidence, and that is pathological evidence which you produce. They are appreciable.
Yes, doctor, it's a very nice presentation and cases were exemplary, brilliant one also. And really, we appreciate your presentation. Hope you can do wonderful job in the future. Really, all your parents can proud about you. Not only your parents, but also the teachers and those who work behind you to make you a good doctor. Definitely, after getting this MD, you can do excellent job. You can concentrate more on infertility and move with that. In Kerala, we have doctors who have more than 2,000 successful stories with their kitties. So hope you can reach that kind of reach in the later part of your life. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you, sir. And I'm open for the questions regarding any
Oh.
of the case.
Yes, now I'm inviting Dr. Vipul Prasad Pandesat for further.
So, Dr. Hetvi, my question is,
Sir,
you have presented three cases with evidence, and in between you also suggested some lifestyle regularly. So, what are the auxiliary measures that you have taken in all the cases for the patient?
So, sir, in each of the cases, this is the protocol I follow. I do tell them according to the case what all lifestyle modifications to do. Like the thirstlessness, being hydrated is one of the very important thing to cure any sort of disease. So, hydration is important. Some sort of workout. It could be walking. I do tell my patient, if you are unable to walk, just walk for 20 minutes a day. Okay, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. Okay, so walking, if they cannot do like a proper exercise, then walking is very good. Brisk walking, that to continue for a certain period of time. It could be 20 minutes, it could be 30 minutes. And also food is also very important. These days people are eating too much of maida and like flour, processed food and everything. And depending on the case, some people also don't eat it. Some cases are there which they are living very healthy lifestyle. So I do change their food thing, that eat more vegetables. The second case which I show, she was actually she used to eat non-vegetarian. Okay, so I she was already having HSV positive, so I told her stop non-veg because it produces heat in the body during that time of the situation. I did assist her. Okay, because every time she used to eat non-veg and she used to get the burning micturition symptoms and everything. So I told her go towards more lighter food, eat fruits in the morning during 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock is very good. Eat more fruits, eat more vegetables, eat fiber rich food, especially in the lunch time. Before you have your lunch, have a good bowl of a salad. It helps a lot in your gut health. So these all are few of the auxiliary measures which I do advise to my patient. And at the same time, if they are able to do, I do tell them to meditate at least in the morning or in the evening, anytime. If they are unable to focus with closing their eyes, I just tell them, if you go to any place you like, it could be a garden, it could be temple, mosque, anywhere, church, anywhere. So just tell them that go to it, see the idol or see tree or anything, and just observe. Just calm your do and box breathing. I say box breathing means 4 second breathe in, then 4 second hold, then 4 second breathe out, and then 4 second hold. So that box breathing technique I do teach my patients. It is very useful. It calms the mind. Yeah.
So, your explanation regarding the
Yes,
auxiliary
sir.
measures are very good. And the second thing I want to ask you, that most of the diseases, they are psychosomatic in origin, and especially infertility, day by day it is increasing. Whether any psychological factor which is responsible for these problems?
Yes, sir. That's why only that was my motive. That PNE excess one. Okay, psycho in female again, because I highlighted today female infertility. I would like to highlight more on that. Obviously, male is there. Female hormones are very sensitive to any sort of stress hormones, any sort of anxiety. Okay, the slightest if a person can observe oneself, then they will do see any small changes in the body. Once any sort of stress, it could be chronic, as I showed in the case also, the last case which I showed you, she was having that childhood trauma. Okay, so that was constantly in her mind. She was not having endometriosis since her first periods, but she got it afterwards. So she was having that fright feeling. So obviously the psychological factor is very important. I also
Yes.
highlighted the relationship between the partner, and also with how the in-laws are there, or anything. It could be if a working woman is there, then work-life balance.
Yes.
Okay, so all
Yes,
these
Doctor.
things are
Excellent.
important.
Excellent explanation, and thank you. And I'm inviting Dr. Karnagar to say a few words, and you can say a vote of thanks to the session also.
Yeah, very good afternoon, sir. Very nice, madam. You are doing very nice. And we are not expecting some remedies. They are help to us in many. But one option is confirmed. That means, in your experience,
Yes, you are muted. You are muted.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I didn't hear the question actually.
Doctor, what about your
madam, yes, you are presented very nicely. You are showing successful positive cases. After confirmation, can you manage with homeopathic medicines only, or a patient shifted to some other auxiliary line of treatment, ma'am?
No, these all cases usually are completely with homeopathy only. And even the last case which I show, which is continue ongoing, she's not even taking, she's right now 8 months pregnant. She's not even taking any allopathic medicine, which is actually prescribed. But she herself was not taking. So I did give her biochemic and everything. So this was completely homeopathic. And I do take suggestions from gynecologist. Very important for
Okay, thank
treatment.
you, Dr. Strongly, and those who attend the English session. Hope you can make some more presentation in the future. Please get ready for that. As the time is over, we are saying going to our Malayalam session. Over to Dr. Manoj.